Well, hello everybody. Thank you for joining us. Really excited to have you here. And for those of you who are just getting a taste of the American Contractor Summit with some real awesome promotional content, just giving you some high quality stuff. So also, thank you to all of you guys for being here. Like from Texas to Colorado to California to the Carolinas. So a really great range of folks here. One of the things that occurred to me when John said, hey, I'd like for you to host this panel, was a lot of the contractors that I deal with who aspire to get to where you guys have gotten, right? So there's a lot of guys out there that are like, well, I'm just starting my business, or I've been in my business a couple of years and I can't hit that next stride. What does that look like? Do I even want to do that? And so I kind of came up with a series of questions with that concept in mind, with a lot of these guys I've talked to who have these goals that you guys, a lot of you have actually met. And so one of the initial thoughts that I had is a lot of us start businesses because we have this definite purpose in mind. Like, I want to start this business because I want to do this thing. I would say that's actually more rare than the second reason I think most people start their own business, which is, I just want to be my own boss. It's just that simple. And that's a pure, legit reason. There's nothing wrong with that reason for starting your business. So in hitting that 8-figure category, okay, my first question is, was that just a logical progression of growth? Like your business just was, you were growing and you were working and you're growing and you're working and you just kind of made your way there? Or was that an actual goal that you had from the beginning? And so whoever wants to start first, you can feel free to get after it there.
Yeah, so for me, I can say that I didn't start with the end in mind.
Well, first of all, what's your name, your company, and where you're from? Let's do that too.
Yeah. You want to do everybody all the way down?
I'd say with your answer.
Okay. Yeah, so Hunter Ballew here with Cornerstone Construction out of the Carolinas. We've got offices in the Southeast, a few different offices. So I started back in 2017, and I'll get to speak a little bit later on that, my story, but I definitely did not start with the end in mind. You know, I had this marketing agency. I fell into roofing, was helping roofers, and I said, hey, I just want to build this company to 7 figures and be able to leverage that as a case study. And I quickly realized when I found the Randy Brothers and the Paul Reeds of the world that 7 figures wasn't much money at all. And so I just began to love the process and love the team building aspect of the roofing industry, and realizing that you can bring a lot of opportunity to people that wouldn't have had that opportunity elsewhere. And so I did begin to love the process, and it became, hey, let's get to 2 million and then 5 million, and then heck yeah, we want to hit 8 and we want to hit 100 and we want to just keep gunning for it. So we did as a team, make these goals, and as leadership, we started to cast that vision so that people were bought into it.
I think for me, it was a shift. So I started with, same type of thing. It was opportunity. I think I can do this better. I want to be my own boss, and I don't want to work for anybody else anymore or work for the people I was working for. So, and the opportunity just kind of presented itself, and I just dove in, jumped off the building and started trying to build my wings. And couple years in, we did okay, right? We did okay, the half, a million, 1.5, and a lot of us get to that 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 in that range. I think probably 90% of us stay in that area. And when I really kind of, got to the place where I was like, you know what? I know what we have. There's something bigger out there. I know we can go bigger. We can go to that 10. We can go to that 20. We can get bigger. And I had to shift as a leader of my organization and shift my mindset to, how can I leverage my company to provide opportunities for other people? Okay, and that paradigm shift where we've really focused on system, process, or opportunities, and really made that our core why of our company, that's when things started falling into place and people started to want to join in and say, hey, let me be a part of this, right? Build something bigger than yourself. And people just started coming and wanting to be a part of it. In our sales, we built a sales program, we built a production program, and systemized everything. And then opportunities started coming, Mother Nature, hail, and all that sort of thing was able to catapult us up to that level. So reinvest in your people, because that's the most important thing, I think, is if as leaders, if we're there to serve and provide opportunities, we take ownership of that. And I'll talk more tomorrow about that as well. But I think that's the key. For me, that was the shift that really kind of helped us, the light bulb go off of, hey, this is how we're really going to get to the next level.
And that's Randy Brothers with Elite Construction, or Elite Roofing, sorry about that, out of the Denver, Colorado area. So you two, very, very similar concepts, like kind of a logical growth, and then, hey, this is a vehicle for helping opportunities for people. So.
And I'm Melanie Knox. I'm one of the owners of Alden Roofing, now a restoration builders company out of Austin, Texas. And I love this question because I haven't really thought about that initial why in so many years, just because you get so busy running it. But I started in the roofing industry as an employee for another company, just kind of similar story to a lot of people. But these owners were very successful, but they were checked out. They didn't work in the company. The people did, and I was fine with that, but, you know, I got pregnant and realized we don't have health insurance. It is not provided by the company, and we ran the company. I mean, and we enjoyed what we did, and we loved the company we worked with, but when it came time to actually taking care of the people, there was not that support there. So it was, we can't afford it, even though, you know, I know how much we make. My aunt and I actually, with some of our family members, decided that we could do this for them, then we can do this for ourselves, and we'd like to set up a company that makes sure it takes care of its people. And so, no, actually, my initial thought was not how many millions can we make. It was, we can do this for them, then we can do this for us, and we can take care of the people and treat those who are running the company and, you know, doing a lot of the hard work, and provide for them and watch them succeed and grow. So that was our original why.
That's awesome, because there's almost a little more, like a little more heart, like in her answer, right? Like actually, like not simply opportunity and go, but providing for people. That's awesome. I love that.
I'm Paul Reed. I'm with Northwest Roofing. For us, for me, it was about really identifying who we are and who can we be. I go to a lot of roofing conferences, and you talk to a lot of people, and you see a lot of people on Facebook. The reality of the most people in the roofing industry, they're $2 to $3 million a year company. Like, that's where most people are. And I would look back sometimes and I would wonder, like, how do they have 20 salesmen and they're still at a $2 million a year company, and, you know, we have 14 salesmen and we sold 14 million. And it always came back to one thing, is at some point we discovered who we were, and we maximized that, and we lived up to our potential, and we looked at it as an opportunity every day to do better and to grow and to actually maximize our stuff. Like, we have, you know, Randy and I live in the same city. We have the same opportunity. Like, when it hails or whatever, we have the same opportunity to go sell, you know, $10 million or $20 million as the next guy. Why does Elite go out and dominate in a storm along with Northwest, but, you know, Joe's company over here that has the same amount of guys, the same logos on their truck, they're selling the same shingle, they have the same pitch, they have the same contract, they have the same weird polo shirt on that we have. Why did we do so much better? And to us, it was because we discovered a why and what we're doing it for. And we had goals in mind of, this is what we're going to do, and this is how we're going to succeed, and this is how we're going to set all of our people up for success. And so it was a very clear, intentional path of to go from X to where we wanted revenue-wise.
That's awesome. Well, so now if you need some more $1 million salespeople, you know where to find them. I'm just kidding. Who else?
Awesome. I have an answer for that. So I'm Graham. I'm with Roofing 101. I'm based out of Carlsbad. We have offices in the Pacific Northwest and Southwest and Kansas City as well. And when I first started the business, it was definitely more transactional focused, you know, more focused on, you know, generating revenue, generating a lead, creating a sale, producing the sale, you know, collecting the money, and just getting really good at that whole transaction process. Once I understood like what the potential was, and once I saw the possibility, that's when things started to change, and we shifted our focus. We actually rebranded the company and shifted our focus. We developed a mission, we developed a vision, core values for the company, a core focus, a core purpose, all that kind of stuff. So we just shifted our focus more towards people, and then things grew from there. Yeah.
So I'm Aaron Christie, and I'm actually from right here, so that makes it really easy for me. Sorry, guys.
We're in Indianapolis, just in case you don't know.
I'm probably more similar to him. I didn't start out with the goal in mind of where I'm at. It was just me, and I just wanted to make money, provide for my family. And then as it grew, I wanted to bring my friends in because I loved the business. It was awesome. So I wanted them to be happy and be in a company that they loved being in. But it's funny how it progresses because it starts there, and each year I feel like it's changed a little bit. So now it's the point after we got everybody in, we're making money, the company's making money. It really doesn't matter too much about the money anymore. And now we're doing things to give back. We're saving 1% of our revenue to go through and do things for the community. And so I'm anxious to see where it evolves in, if that's where we're going from here. So it didn't start there, but that's where it's ended up.
That is really, really cool. All those great answers. Appreciate that. So what was something that surprised you once you kind of kicked past that 10 million number? What was something that you're like, ooh, I didn't see this coming?
Good one. You're going to all relate to this. You still got to pay attention to the money. Yeah. Just because you're making 10, 15, 12, like 8 figures, right? That doesn't mean you all of a sudden have this tree of money you can do whatever you want with. Okay, you grow your business, your overhead grows, the obligations grow. So from day one till forever, pay attention to the money and run your business by the numbers.
Yeah, so I'd piggyback off of that. There's a reason that you hear over and over, if you go to conferences, you're in masterminds, you do courses, you pay attention to QuickBooks, any of those things, people say over and over and over, cash flow's king. Cash flow's king. You got to have cash coming in to pay those bills, and I feel like it's important that you educate your team as well on the difference in revenue and gross profit and net profit, because you've got all these guys running around thinking, I don't have to get that back in check. I've got time. I don't feel like driving an hour away to talk to Miss Betty. She's going to talk my head off forever because she's single or doesn't have a husband, and she just wants to talk to me. And so you're out there trying to pick up this check, and you don't want to deal with that. But when you've got 30 guys out there and they're all owed $30,000, you can do the math on that. It adds up pretty quick, and your AR builds. Well, if you're in scale mode, if that's what you want to call it, and you're scaling, well, your overhead is scaling too. Now, when you find that sweet spot and you level out, some of these guys that have been in business for a long time can speak to that. When you level out, you're going to create a gap where you've got healthy profit. But if you're growing, you're putting wraps on, you're buying trucks, you're doing things to grow your team and to scale your business. So cash flow is indeed king.
I have something to contribute to that, but I would say one thing for us, we're definitely not a perfect operation. One thing that I discovered was our ordering process, like ordering materials. Ordering materials, yeah. So over ordering, by just $100, $200, $300. When you're doing hundreds of jobs, all of that adds up, and cash flow is king. So literally, it's like little details like that make a huge difference long term.
That's a very functional piece of advice there. Just the little details and how they add up, and they become big numbers when it's little things times a lot of transactions. That's good.
I think for us, one of the key things was actually realizing sometimes that some of the people that helped get you there to that point aren't necessarily going to be a fit for you when you get to a certain level. Loyalty sometimes comes into play, and a lot of times you're like, man, this guy was here from day one, and man, he really helped build this company and push us forward. But sometimes they don't have the right mindset, they don't have the same goals, and they may not be a fit for you. When they may be a fit for you when you were a $2, $3, $4, $5 million a year company, but all of a sudden when you grow to 10, 20, or 30, they may not be a fit for you. So really knowing a lot of times that, yes, I believe loyalty is very important, but sometimes it can also be a detriment to the company.
Man, that's really, really good. Sometimes the people that help get you there sometimes the company grows apart from them and they grow apart from it. Wow.
And sometimes that's family. Okay.
Oftentimes
sometimes
it's family.
that is family.
The
Honestly,
lady doing your books, right? I mean, well,
Right.
you're a different case, right? Because it's your mom and she's really good. But
100%.
sometimes you use, your salesman's wife that, maybe graduated from college with, a PE degree. She doesn't even have an accounting degree, but sometimes they're not the right fit.
my first, you asked the question earlier. I probably should answer this even a little more deeper how she did, but I started my business to create a job for my mom. She was really good with books. She was really good with numbers. She was my bookkeeper for the first 7-8 years. We outgrew her capacity. I have a CFO now, right? I mean, you go through these transitions. You have to actually create a corporation at some point. We can't just be a hustler working out of the back of a truck or in a small office. You got to actually build a infrastructure of business. Lo and behold, God works in mysterious ways. We outgrew mom. That was a really tough time. Now, she does books for a number of other small roofing companies, and it's a blessing because now she's really found her niche and her retirement plan. And so you just got to go with it as it comes. And unfortunately, be willing to do whatever it takes. And unfortunately, there's times where that means separating yourself from your own family who helped you get there.
You hear that, elite sales guys? Randy will fire his own mom. So if you're watching,
Don't worry, they are probably watching, and mom's watching. I love you all, and they all know one another, and they'll laugh about this later.
We actually had an instance where, I had a vision. The executive team had a vision for the company, and we had a controller for probably 2 or 3 years. I don't remember how long. But I remember her when I first hired her, I remember her saying, I really enjoy working for small construction companies. And I forgot about that. And then when we started growing, it was just like stress compounding and compounding. And she did not want to work for a large, construction company with multiple locations. It's not easy to organize for a controller. So she left, and I should not have been surprised, but I was. It kind of caught us off guard. So that was a big mistake.
I was just going to say, I'm relating to this. I never really thought about it, but it's also the flip side. I have watched people who started from, the very beginning when none of us really knew what we were doing or how to run a multi-million-dollar company, and watching them grow and take on new roles and get the education they needed to take it up to the next level. Just like all of the other leaders in the company had to do, and the owners, as owners we had to do, is getting the education we need and just putting in the work and hustling. And the other thing that really surprised me is, I'm just being vulnerable, but we have been successful and lost it. We've been successful and we've lost it. And what I've learned is that you can't get comfortable. You can hit those, 10 million and up sales years, but you can also lose it. You can never take your eye off the ball. You're always working. A lot of people say they, go into business so that they can be free or take time off or relax. No, your job just changes. It's on a whole nother level. And you have to continually grow and learn and stay on top of it. And that's what surprised me the most. So
yeah, that is great stuff.
So we talk about getting there, right? It's like everyone, you get there, that 8 figures, right? That's that big hairy goal, the 4-minute mile. Now you got to stay there. Once you get there, you got to figure out how to stay there. And that's a whole nother world that you get into, as some of you are younger, older. And I'm going to lean on my man, Paul, the uncle of the group here. He's been doing this a long time. And there's a lot to staying at that level because it creates a whole nother world of challenges and things you just got to change, as you mentioned.
Yeah, that's awesome. So we actually had just kind of started talking about scaling here, and Hunter actually started to hit on kind of this next question that I had in mind. As you guys know, scaling is like this. It's a truly legit word, right? But it's also like a catchword now. Everybody talks about scaling and trying to scale, and they want to scale their business and scale and put things on a scale. I don't know. But as you guys realize, as you're scaling, your ratio of profitability to overhead and revenue is not static. And it's not linear, like it's going to go up and down. So one year you might sell more than you did the year before, but your profitability to revenue ratio might be less, right? And so one of the questions I had kind of around that was, as you scaled from one leap to the next, which did you find the most difficult?
Well, all of mine was basically last year, so the entire year was difficult. But I think the key to going through those for me was having good people in place and knowing, the expectations that they have set and making sure that everything's done appropriately. I wouldn't have been able to do it without the people that we had in place. So it's my input on it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be boring, but I think that every time you reach another level, you're going to break processes that you've put in place. You spent so much time on, put the people in place, and you feel like you got it all figured out. Collections, AR being one of those things, operations being one of those things, and then you break it, and it's like, golly bum, we got to go through this again at the end of the year. Winter, we got to fix these things, but it's just the case, at least for me. I mean, I'm only a few years in, so someone like Paul and Randy could probably speak better to that. They've been after it for, I think, both 10 plus years, but for us, that's it. To go back to what he was talking about with different people, man, I read a book last year. I think it was in this book called Blitzscaling, and it was saying exactly what Paul just said of, you're going to start with Marines. Marines take the beach. Then the Army goes forward, they take the city, and the police, they stabilize the city, and they maintain the city. The Army can get along with both sides, but the police and the Marines cannot get along together. It just does not work out, right? Marines are hard chargers. They're wanting to go. So like Aaron can tell you his story. He's getting after it. So he's in year 2. They've been getting after it. They had a storm, going crazy. They're just out there beating down doors, running leads from referrals, selling. Those same people in 3, 4, 5 years when they stabilize, and I hate the friggin' word corporate, but when they grow more into that corporate world where there are more systems and processes, probably not a fit. And that sucks because I've experienced the same thing where you have a lot of friends that are go-getters, they're hard workers, but maybe they don't fit that mold as much.
Okay. All right. One question, I know I hear this from some of you guys out there too. Is there a sweet spot, and what is it?
That's a great question.
6 million.
The spot where you make money and you don't lose money.
Great. Have a good night.
Later. That's like the moving target, right? You never, because it's like, here's a challenge, right? Especially in our world, most of us, a lot of the world of, hailstorms or non-hailstorms, right? I believe in building a business model based on a retail business with the ability to capture and capitalize when you get the opportunity to have a storm, right? And it's always a moving target because you get that storm, you have to scale overnight. You have to ramp up your staff. You got to have training programs in process. You got to get more production people, more office, more admin, more air, all the people to handle all the systems within your business to scale up. But then on the flip side of that, you got to be able to scale back. And that's really challenging to do. No ifs, ands, or buts. It's very challenging to do, so it's always going to be a moving target. So I think that the takeaway there is don't get too big too fast. And just because the opportunity is there and you go all in at it, be careful because you may be chasing something that is, diminishing returns is a real thing, right? You grow your business, you grow your overhead. At the same time, you shrink your net margin. So be careful of that.
For us, we always look at it. Our target moves. We go into each year with a direct goal. So say this year my number is 50 million, and when I call it our sweet spot, I know exactly for our sweet spot is I know exactly how many people I have to have. I know how many crews I need to have. I know how many production managers I need, superintendents. I know how many office staff we need to have, and we know exactly what that looks like. So that target sometimes will move because, like Randy just said, because sometimes that will shift. Last year with COVID, our numbers were pretty aggressive last year, and then COVID hit, and Within, I think, 10 days of after COVID, I lost something like 10.3 million in CapEx projects that were on the books that were just pulled away. So now what do, right? Our sweet spot was pretty crazy because I'm staffed up for $10.3 million worth of revenue that I have. Now what are we going to do, right? And so being able to identify where you're comfortable, where your company can really function, and you could do it right. Like that's, everybody's sweet spot's a little bit different, right? Yours maybe 6 million or 10 million or 3 million, but identifying what that looks like and then knowing how to adjust when things either happen for the good or the things happen really bad and you lose $10.3 million, overnight. How do you, that's your sweet spot. I was able to walk away from there, I felt sorry for myself, I think for like 24 hours, maybe 36 hours at least. But after that, then it's back to business and we're back in the grind and everything's good.
That's fantastic. So the takeaway from that I'm hearing is your sweet spot is being able to hit what you prepared for. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Like our sweet spot with the infrastructure we have is 20 million right now. That's our sweet spot. We could run a highly profitable 12 million, but 20 million, that's our sweet spot. We spent the last 2 years just focused on 3 pillars of recruiting, like, getting all of our recruiting systems down, getting all of our training systems down, getting all of our leading systems down. Now we're at that spot now, so.
That's awesome, guys. Great sharing. And you guys may or may not know this, but like a lot of the guys that are watching this here, 3 out of 4 specialty trade contractors, which is roofing falls into that category, generate less than $1 million in revenue a year. 3 out of 4. So you guys sitting here are a highly elite group of contractors in that number, and that's pretty special. That's pretty cool. And so so for any of you other contractors out there too, if you're breaking $1 million, you're breaking 2 million, breaking 3 million, you're doing better than you think. So give yourself some grace on that. You guys kind of answered one of my questions here, so I'm having to rework it. All right, so another one that I get a lot of from guys is, especially when they're either first starting out or they've been at it a little while and they want to work on their business, not in it. They're in the day-to-day. They're literally writing 75% of the estimates that go out. They're ordering their own roofs. These guys are working inside their business. They're like their own employee, right? I like to say they own their own job, okay? But what they really like to do is work on their business. Okay, so do you guys feel like you're at that place? And at what point did that happen? Or what caused you to be like, hey, I'm actually working on my business now. All right.
I guess I kind of have to go there being the consultant of the group. Yeah, I mean, I think at this point, like my day-to-day is very rigid. Like I have very specific, organized, preset blocks of time that I allocate towards each one of my businesses, including my roofing company. And I think the way to get there is first, you just got to take the first step. Like if you're out there running around doing everything for your business, look at your week and find a block of 2 hours. Okay, 2 hours. Start there. Tuesday morning from 7 to 9. Don't bother me. I'm working on my business. And start there. And then inch that up and inch that up, and it's going to force you to start to think like an entrepreneur and not a doer, right? Like a leader. And then you'll embrace, okay, now I got this one thing done in that 2 hours that had a huge impact on my business. Now I'll make it 4 hours. Now I'll make it 6 hours. Now I'll make it an entire day. And then as you do that, you'll start to delegate, you'll start to lean on it and empower the people around you to help you support that, and everybody grows. Because our job as leaders of our organizations is to inspire and train, and I know Jim talked about it earlier, is to inspire other leaders, develop other leaders within our organization. We can't do that when we're running around with the AK trying to just shoot at everything that comes at us, right? We can't do that. We have to become a leader ourselves and then understand our responsibility to our business to establish and develop other leaders and be obsessive about your time. Obsessive.
I kind of feel this question because I dealt with it last year. I was kind of at the point, and I think probably what a lot of people deal with is the when. When do I, hire somebody to bring on so I have more free time? It's a scary thing to go, yeah, I'm going to hire somebody and have them come in and their whole entire family is going to depend on me and what I'm doing. So, I think it's one of those things that people are going to have to make a leap. Well, you're just going to know if, you're there or not, and you're going to feel like, hey, I'm not ready. But one of the things that I did that really helped is we got a virtual assistant, and I have my cell phone forwarded because the entire company still goes to my cell phone, and I have it forwarded now to a virtual assistant, which answers all my calls, gave me so much more free time to work on the business. But on top of that, they can do a lot of other things. They can add leads in and do pretty much anything that you ask them to do. So that freed up a huge amount of time on just menial tasks that I was doing that I had to do day to day that were stuck on me. So if you're not ready to hire full staff, look into a virtual assistant.
I agree with that. I think it's important. In the beginning, you have to work in your business. And going slow and prioritizing how you're going to work on your business. What are the first things you need to do to get to that point where you are more free to do the higher level? So working on your business as far as preparing to bring people in, making sure your processes and procedures are in place, doing the SOPs and the budgets and understanding your numbers and all the things you don't want to do, but you have to have in place before you're able to set your company up for success where people can come in and start running it and, leading their departments. And they just need a foundation to come into. So a lot of people want to hurry up and get out. So they're like, cool, you'll be my sales manager. Let me know how that goes, without a lot of support or direction or guidance or, the processes in place. So it's a hustle, and you work very, very hard to work on your business. It's not like you're done once you get to that point. So
you're saying you just don't go hire a bunch of people and then they just figure it out and take care of everything for you?
Yeah, that's not usually the most successful process, no.
For me, this was a sort of a non-traditional way. So I'm originally from Kansas City, and that's where the original branch is. And my wife and I just made the decision to move to Southern California. And so we just gave ourselves a deadline of 9 months to figure it out. So we made the commitment, hey, we're moving, told everybody, told my parents, told my in-laws, and then people were looking at us like we're nuts. And then I told the company, and they're like, what are we gonna do? We got 9 months to figure it out. So then from there, we just grew from there.
That's fantastic. I mean, I don't know if that's like just fire and then aim. Like, here we go.
I remember watching him do it going, oh boy, like that don't look good. What are you doing?
Yeah, I think everybody said that. But it was it was more of a personal thing. Like, we wanted to get out of the Midwest. We wanted to live our life. And it's like, let's do it and figure it out,
For me, nearly from day one, it's been working on the business and not in the business because I didn't know anything about the business. So I worked in it enough to understand it, but I immediately started hiring people that did understand the business so that I could focus on marketing, getting sales guys, figuring out how to build out a program that would teach them how to sell, to go through the process from back when we used to have project managers that would order their own materials, they'd schedule the job. We had to teach them the entire process. And so for me, it was working on the business so that we could make that repeatable and automate it. Like in the Marine Corps, you talk about NCOs are the backbone. Well, for us, the sales guys are the backbone. If the sales guys get out there, if we train them well and they create more revenue for the company, more cash flow, more profit, well, then we can hire the people we need to work inside of the business so that leadership can work on the business.
I want to throw this in. So for me, I'm pretty fortunate because I have a business partner, at Northwest, and so our dynamic is he's able to work on the business like full time, and I'm able to kind of bounce back and forth because, to kind of throw a monkey wrench in everybody. My personal belief sometimes is, as a leader and as an owner, I need to kind of get in the weeds with my guys to experience what they're experiencing, to feel what they're feeling, to truly understand sometimes the scope of the storm. I've seen a lot of owners that really probably shouldn't have been working. I mean, you always got to work on your business. That just said, well, I'm the owner, so I'm going to sit behind my desk and I'm going to wait for somebody to go sell something because I'm the owner. So this is what I'm going to do. So you got to be really careful of how that dynamic goes and know when the proper time is, the way Hunter's done it is very, very smart. And Graham, I see what you're doing and it worked, right? That was awesome. But I was mentoring a couple guys last year out of Texas, and they were both working on the business. And they didn't have any sales guys. And they had about $800,000 in revenue. I'm like, who the hell's working in the business? Well, we're the owners. Okay, well, someone needs to work in the business, right? And so there's that dynamic sometimes because your ego tells you, well, I'm the owner. I'm going to put my feet on the desk, and I'm going to wait for somebody to make something happen. And you got to be really careful of how you go that way. But on the other hand, as well, I've seen that too, where you get so stuck in the business, in the weeds, that no one's working on the business. So really stepping back and looking at that and going to things like this and watching things like this conference to where you could really learn. That was probably our biggest problem, was my ego told me, I hate Elite Roofing. I hate those guys. I hate Interstate. I hate all these other roofing companies. I don't want anything to do with them because they're my enemy. And finally, when my ego told me it's okay to be friends with Randy and to learn from Randy, that's when our company really took off and really, really scaled at that point.
That's really, really cool. So given that so many of these people watching this right now are thinking, I just got to get to that point, right? Like in the same way that we see like 8 figures as this big goal. If we get there, we made it. Maybe not, right? Some of them are looking at this concept of being a business owner that doesn't necessarily have to be at their office every single day or knocking a door every single day. And you guys represent some of that. Is it what you thought it would be? And what should they be aware of when they look at that, right? Because I want people to keep their goals, but I also, if people are delusioned about, oh man, I've got all these people working for me now, I don't have to work as much.
No, just because you're working on doesn't mean you're not on your business, doesn't mean you're not there and you're not in your business. You are present, you are supportive, you're just in a different role. You have a different job description. You might not be ordering materials or knocking on doors, but you are working with the team in a different role. So that is what I learned as far as.
Yeah, you're not working less.
No, more.
And if you want to get to that level,
you hear that?
You're not, just because you're working on your business doesn't mean you work less, right? You actually work more.
Correct.
In a way, because yeah, it may seem like you're working super hard because you're waking up, you're out with the guy. And I love what you said there, because I think from my personal perspective, it's a mix of the two, right? Because, obviously we all are going to speak from our own personal experiences, but I was in there. I used to storm chase. I used to knock doors. I used to travel. I used to, do all these things. I've been there. I've done that. I know what it's like to do the grind. And I think that's given me an edge, and it's given me the ability to really, help empower my guys and have that mutual respect that they know I've been there and I can understand what it's like day to day in what it takes to grind that out. So I think there is a little bit of a rite of passage that we all have to. I think the bottom line is we have to be willing to do whatever it takes, whether that's knocking a door or cleaning a toilet or going to buy a pipe boot. You got to be willing to do whatever it takes, but don't let whatever it takes consume you and distract you from the bigger vision that you're trying to accomplish, right?
Yeah, I think everybody up here would agree. We probably work more. It's just in different stuff. And I think a lot of people don't see that because, especially your employees, they may not see that.
Well, I mean, you guys are here,
yeah,
but your businesses aren't closed,
yeah,
right? So that's what people see.
Right.
People see you guys up here talking, but your businesses are still running, right? And
Right.
I think sometimes there's a little bit of confusion over what that looks like.
Right, and there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff, and like she said earlier, you have to continue to work at it, or you fall off. So like technically somebody could get here and relax and not really worry about stuff, but then you're going to suffer, and your business is going to suffer, and it's going to go down. So I know for me personally, it is to work in the business and personal growth and everything that I need to continue the upward scale. So,
Yeah, I'd say I spend a lot of time on solving problems. That's like, I'm a professional problem solver. And I spend a lot of time coaching and developing people. Like those are like the two big things. And then projects, things that are going to impact the company 2 years from now, 3 years from now, stuff like that.
That's awesome, because that kind of answered a question that I had. A lot of you guys were doing this, like, what are you working on now that you work on your business? And I think you guys have really answered that question well. I appreciate that.
Yeah, so I'm going to say basically the same thing Randy said when he said whatever it takes, and it goes back to that last question again, and it's that you're doing whatever serves your team best. Like if that means being in the grind, working in the business, helping build processes, and that's what you're doing. If you're building out the course for your team, then you're doing that. If you're focusing on books and you're doing that, it's whatever serves your team best at that time. It doesn't mean that you get to kick up your feet and just chill while they're all grinding. You're still putting in the work, and you're doing whatever serves your team best if you don't have the people in place to do it.
To add one more layer onto that is when you're trying to build out a vision for yourself is, hey, I want to build this organization. Understand your strengths. Because sure, you got to be willing to do everything, do whatever it takes to get there. But if you want to land in a place and get yourself in a place that's going to have the greatest single impact on your business, you have to understand your strengths through and through. And then build a position for yourself that really, really accentuates your strengths, and find other people that are really good at the things that you're not good at. And that allows you to get in a lane and stay in that lane as much as you can. Every once in a while, you might have to step out to help and do something. But if you can get in a lane that's like right where your strengths are, I think that's the sweet spot as a leader of an organization.
Randy's cheating because he's looking at my notes while he sits over there. I can see what he's doing. I get it. So that actually is a great segue. What were some of the skills that you needed personally that you didn't have?
I have this one here. I'll tell you what. Everything, right? I'm going to misquote this stat. You kind of referenced it earlier, but there's some stat like you're in the top 1% of like all businesses in America. Like if your business generates more than like $1 million a year in revenue, it's something like that or close to that, right? So all of a sudden we woke up. The majority, well, I'll speak for myself. You guys probably all have like Harvard degrees. I don't, right? I barely graduated from high school. My business partner dropped out when he was in 9th grade. And all of a sudden you go out and you sell a bunch of roofs and you make flyers and you do all these things and you're running $1 million a year company. And then you're running a $3 million a year company. And you're running a $5 million, $10 million, $20 million a year company. And learning just how to run a business, because most companies across America, most roofing companies were built off of just like grind and hustle. They knew how, someone taught them to go knock on a door and how to give away a roof. The insurance company is going to pay for it. Like that's how most companies were built. And all of a sudden you find yourself running a multi-million-dollar company. You're in the top 1% in America. And when you really realize that, and now how do I honor that, and how do I learn that? All of a sudden we have it. Randy said, "You have a CFO." We have a CFO. Like, we have a CFO. That's like we.
I have to ask for my own money.
Right. We have to turn in receipts. Like all these weird things, but it's so crazy that we have this industry that guys that could go off of grind and hustle can have a multi-million-dollar a year company, right? And so how do we figure that out? How do we find that balance of how do we really run that company? Because I could run a company just kind of in my sleep of a few $1 million a year off of grind and hustle just by showing up. That's easy to do. You could do that. But how do we make a difference in other people's lives by running our company? And that is acting like a business. Most companies are run as a mom and pop store. How do we actually run our business as actually a multi-million-dollar a year corporation? Because that's what we have.
So that conversion from hustle to business owner.
Yes.
Yeah, that's good.
I think the transition there is at some point we all have to realize, and not just realize it, but really take it to heart, the responsibility that we actually created for ourselves when we started business. At some point, you're going to realize there are other people's lives, other people's families, other people's livelihood that is relying on my growth and my leadership. And once you truly realize that, it seems like something kind of switches and you start making that transition from, like what Jim talked about earlier about, is what's in it for me, but what's in it for other people. And when you take ownership of the fact that every day when you wake up, the decisions you make have an effect on a lot more people than yourself, I think that's the transition that we all go through. And I think the faster you can get there and really understand that and take ownership that we're not good at everything, and that's okay. We're expected to have all the answers, but we don't, and that's okay. You really can start to grow as a leader, and everything else really starts to fall in line after that point, I think.
Yeah, I think for me the biggest thing was I realized the mission was bigger than me, and I wasn't the guy that was going to take it to where it needed to go. So I actually brought on partners. We have a CEO, we have a COO, a controller. They handle majority of the operations of the company. And I knew we were at there's only so far I could go by myself. Mm-hmm. So, so there's a lot. I think back to the original question, what skills? I think probably once I got to that point, now it's more about like leading through layers. Having the systems in place, but the true skill of how do I influence somebody here, but I have to lead the manager first to be able to influence all the results down here. So that's the skill that I was lacking that, we've been working on.
I was going to say one of the personal skills that I lacked, and I didn't realize it till now it's a running joke in our company, is the accounting part of our company. I keep hearing CFO, controller. It is huge. Critical aspect to your company that I never thought to look into. It's super boring to me. One of the jokes is they were asking, can you run a P&L? And I was like, is that one of those things that you do in QuickBooks? And I'm one of the owners, and that's not okay. But when I realized, where I was lacking, I did the research. I'm not an accountant. I'm not a controller. I'm never going to be a CFO. But I know the accounting that I need to know now to watch my business and to watch my cost and to understand where we are and where we're headed and what we're able to do. So that was a key element that I was lacking as far as a business owner and a leader. So
I think that's the key, is she was willing to learn it, whether it be on your own or ask people for help. I know I was lacking almost everything. So I brought Josh Conrad in, and he's good with KPIs, those type of things. I focused on sales and marketing, but there's a lot of different avenues that I didn't know in general. So I just asked people, and I think that'd be one of the biggest things. Like ego, I think prevents that,
Humility.
Sometimes. And fortunately for me, I just knew that I didn't know, and instead of failing, I was just like, you know what, I'm going to go ask. And I have bothered probably everybody. I've watched every single one of these guys talk. It's kind of cool that I'm on this stage now because, I've been watching you guys for the last couple of years and trying to learn everything. So that's the biggest thing for me, is just, if you're missing stuff, don't be afraid to ask. Like, go talk to somebody. Everybody's really cool. You can pretty much reach out to anybody and get some help.
I also think getting a mentor to actually to piggyback on what he's saying, get a mentor to point out your blind spots. Yeah. Get a coach to point, because you may not even know. I mean, that's why they call it a blind spot. Yeah. You're like, oh, I had no idea. Yeah. So.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, for me, it was just the willingness to empower other people. I feel like I was naturally okay at it, but then I'd find myself on the things that I felt like I was really good at, marketing being one of those things, not wanting to let go of that, right? And being too critical of the people on the team. And Craig Gershell's a guy I listen to a lot. He's a pastor out in Oklahoma, and he says all the time, when you have a team member that gets to 80% capacity of where you are, let go of it, because eventually they're going to hit that 110% mark and become better than you are. But at some point, you have to be willing to let go and let them take control of the situation, whatever it is. If it's operations, collections, doesn't matter. Let them handle it, watch them, help them through it, and they'll be able to do it better than you are.
You guys are killing it, first of all. I'm digging all of this information. We are down to a few minutes here. Oof, man. 2 minutes? Not one of my questions can be covered in 2 minutes. All right. Consider the people that are watching this right now looking up to you guys right now. Give us 30 seconds of something that you would advise them on as they're seeking to be like you.
Be vulnerable. Call someone. Message someone on there. I wish I would have did that years ago. Reach out. There's a lot of great people in this industry that will answer your phone call or your text message or your Facebook message. Just be vulnerable and let them know what's going on with your stuff, and don't let your ego get in the way of letting you grow.
I agree. I've noticed that the support within the roofing industry has been a huge factor of why I am where I am. Like physically here on this stage, the contractors that I've met have helped me get to where I want to be. So joining the associations, the local roofing associations, networking with other roofing contractors that you might right now view as competition, but also be willing to help. Be willing to reach out to them and to be an asset for others as well.
Yeah, both of them are spot on with investing in yourself, time and money, going to coaches, going to events. There's plenty of great people in the industry, and I think we're seeing a big shift from where people are focused on income to impact. And Jim talked about that, and I know Paul's going to talk about legacy. And with roofing community, we talk about legacy and high integrity and leadership, and I think we're seeing that shift. And so I'd say focus on people. Focus on people. If you're a leader and you're still out there and you're grinding, we hit on that earlier. Like, are you in the business? Or are you focusing on duplicating your team and giving opportunity to people? You don't have to grind your face off and focus on where the money's going to come from. Obviously, you have to get it. You have to create that revenue, but focus on selling people that vision that you have, that big vision that you have, instead of selling roofs and being out there on the grind.
Yeah, I would say this might be a little different, but stop being so neutral. Stop being passive in your business. Stop being comfortable. It's time to do something. We live in the greatest country on the planet, despite what's been going on the last year. The country was founded on principles of freedom, pursuit of happiness, life, liberty, all that good stuff. So stop being so passive and neutral and comfortable and get after it.
I love it. It's a good challenge.
I already kind of spoke on the ego thing. Make sure and reach out, and you guys all had answers too. So I'll just go on nuts and bolts from companies that want to go from like $1 million and grow up. What I did, and I talked about it earlier, is I got a virtual assistant. Get on Upwork.com, something like that, to free up your time to do these things that they're all talking about. And I would also tell people to focus on their Google My Business page. Give yourself some credibility, get reviews, work that, because a lot of people focus on SEO, which even if you're number one, you're down here still. You have 8 other things on top of you, but Google My Business is right there. Most people go to it. So give yourself some time through a virtual assistant, work on the things that all they talked about, build out your Google My Business page to give you credibility, and I think it'll go from there.
The 3, man, it's hard because you guys took them as you were coming down. The 3 most valuable assets that you have as an entrepreneur: people, time, and knowledge. Invest in people, be obsessive about your time, and have an insatiable desire to learn as fast as you can and learn from other people. That's the key ingredient for success.
Man, awesome. You guys, this was fantastic. Just a big thank you from me, and I know I can say this for a lot of people who are watching this right now. Thank you so very much. For those of you that are checking out the summit, and maybe you've seen some of this free content, you can still register for this event and see all the content that happened previously, and you'll get to see all the content we're bringing to you tomorrow, because we're going to be on fire tomorrow too. So thank you so much for tuning into this, and for those of you that are going to be carrying on throughout the rest of the afternoon, we'll see you shortly.